A Sussex man who goes by the name of Mark Ward, we've spoken to him on the radio station before, who contracted HIV and hepatitis C after being given contaminated blood, says that a long-running inquiry into how people were infected could be as explosive as the Hillsbrough Inquiry. Mark Ward from Peacehaven was among the thousands affected by contaminated blood in the 70s and 80s. He's a haemophiliac and he joins us now. Hello, Mark.
Good morning, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. Now then, tell us about the latest inquiry. This is something that's the Penrose Inquiry in Scotland. Is this going to move things forward for you, do you think?
Well, whatever happens, it will have to impact on the whole of the United Kingdom. Although the inquiry is taking place in Scotland and the English government in Westminster are trying to distance themselves from that by saying it's a Scottish inquiry for the Scottish government, the evidence that's being looked into all happened pre-devolution. So it's the actions that the Westminster government took during the 70s and 80s across the whole country. That's what he's actually looking into.
I mean, blood is all screened now, so this won't happen again. Do you think? When you were given blood, it was contaminated. Then that was what caused you problems.
Yeah, can I actually explain that? Because you see, what actually happens is they would take donations. So somebody goes in and gives a pint of blood. They didn't then just put that pint of blood into my body or into somebody who needs it, like when you have surgery. What they do is they take the pints of blood and they put them in a huge vat. So you would possibly have up to 30,000 pints of blood from 30,000 people all go into this big vat. It all gets mixed up, and then what they do is they put it through a process to turn those 30,000 pints of blood into millions of bottles of different blood products. So what they actually do is they spin it and they take certain parts and components of the blood out to make different blood products. So the actual part that I need to make my blood clots is called factor VIII, and they then inject that into us. So growing up as a child, you can imagine babies crawling and kids, you're constantly bumping into things, and when you're playing, even kicking a football actually triggers off internal bleeding. So what would happen would be taken to the hospital. They then give you the injection of the factor VIII, but that only lasts in the body between 8 to 12 hours.
Mark, one of the interesting things about this inquiry is I mean, obviously it'll rule whether or not, in some ways, the system was fatally flawed, but it's not got a remit to give any compensation. I know that's something that it's still. I mean, you've had no compensation for this, have you?
No, we haven't. But I think, to be honest with you, that hearing actually your show this morning, and also what Danny's got coming up later on, is when you look at what's actually the culture of politics at that point in time, and the country, whenever anything awful happens, like you have, say, the Hillsbrough disaster, or you have a plane crash, or even the thalidomide disaster, there's always been a public inquiry looking into what happened to ensure it can never happen again and people will be safe in the future. But with 2,000 plus already dead haemophiliacs, there's never been a public inquiry in England because they keep saying there's no need for one and evidence is in the public domain. There's no need to pay compensation because there's no wrongdoing been done. But they've never actually looked. They've never investigated.
OK, Mark. Well, let's see whether anything comes out of the Scottish inquiry and whether that does move it on. But Mark clearly feels aggrieved, and you can imagine if you take a product which is supposed to do you good and it gives you a lifetime of illness.